Welcome to We Learn Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 10th of the study of society, and the chapter is Processes of Education. Let's see the topics to be covered. Meaning of education, historical development of the educational system in India, education and inequality, and women's education. The meaning of education, the word systematic instruction are of significance, implying an organized way of conveying specific meanings or symbols. Instruction is a process whereby the learner acquires knowledge from the teacher, which has been processed and graded according to the age and intelligence levels of the average student. When a student goes to school, college or university, he or she is participating in the formal system of education. So basically the word systematic instruction are of significance in an organized way where the person goes to school, college or a university, he or she, the student, is participating in the formal system of education, and also the teacher gives education or instruction that is according to the age and the intelligence level of the student. Lifelong learning and education. Every experience can be a potential learning experience. However, unlike education, it is not necessarily imparted through any specific agency like the school. For instance, you can learn about people and perhaps the variety of occupations available to them when you wander through a shopping complex. So basically, education is not just acquiring in a classroom or in a school. It can be through a hands-on experience. It can be through when you wander through a shopping complex. It can be through when you go out or when you acquire knowledge about different places and occupations. Education in a specific area is something you share in common with a larger group. Participation in it is based on a system and ordering of various topics in a range of subjects or disciplines, and finally an assessment or evaluation by the teacher or a test which you would have to send in for evaluation. Education is not random and sporadic as learning may be, but it is regular and regulated. Education is regulated, and it has an assessment or evaluation by the teacher. A test is there where a person has to go for evaluation, and also education is something you share in common, and it is not random, but learning may be random or sporadic. Formal and non-formal education. Education can be formal or non-formal, be directly transmitted by the teacher or through a prepared text such as this one. The non-formal stream in our educational system also aims to give relevant information without necessarily involving assessments, tests, and so on. However, there is an important difference in the content as well as the methods of distance teaching and those of non-formal education. So the non-formal education can also be with the help of distance teaching or with the help of not organizing a class teacher or a classroom, but through the help of online or any other mode. And education which is formal, it can be in the classroom or in a particular set where the teacher is there and the students are there. A major program entitled Non-Formal Education was launched in India in 1975-76 for those in the age group of 15 to 25 years. The object of this is, as also of the later National Adult Education Programs, NAEP, was to provide meaningful education to deprived groups. The NAEP, which was initiated in April 1979, was to reach out to 10 crores illiterates, particularly in the age group of 15 to 35 years. So basically, National Adult Education Program was organized to give education to the adults in the age group of 15 to 35 years. The aim of these programs, which lie outside the formal educational system in combination with the latter, is to combat the problem of rampant illiteracy. Even after 40 years of independence and well over a century and a half since the first school was started in India, only 50% of the population is literate. Of the illiterates, more than half are women and girls. So, more than half of the women population and the girl population comprises of the illiterates, those who don't know how to read and write. Historical development of the educational system in India. Access to literacy was a closely guarded secret. and the owners of this privileged knowledge, usually Brahmins among the Hindus, were held in great esteem and treated with reverence. In the early 19th century, the British rulers turned their attention to the education of Indians, expanding trade, commerce, business, as well as the bureaucracy required local participation, at least at the lower levels. So basically, access to literacy education was a closely guarded secret and affair where only the Brahmins had the access, and they were considered with great esteem and reverence. Education and inequality. When the British left India, there was a well-established network of formal educational institutions. Further, there had been some headway in non-formal education as well. So, with the coming of the Britishers, they also paved the way for the setting up of formal educational institutions wherein the Indians can educate themselves, and also they set up this formal educational system for expansion of trade, commerce, business, and also some non-formal education has also been set up. We have a fast growing sector which can compete with the best professionals in the world. On the other, there is expanding population of illiterates and non-school goers also. So people also drop out from the school, they're non-school goers, and also they are illiterate. So on the other hand, there is this illiteracy problem as well. Expansion of education. During the last few decades, the view that educational institutions should play a more active role in bringing about greater equality among individuals has led to considerable educational expansion. It has also resulted in various interpretations of the notion of equality and its relationship with education. So basically, educational institutions should play an active role of bringing equality between individuals, between the gender, and should provide educational expansion wherein the development of mind as well as there is spiritual development takes place. Commitment to equal education for all is based on the assumption that everyone is exactly alike. So basically, considering everyone equal and based on the concept of equality, there should be education. Findings on education. In the 1950s, the work of some British social scientists established that the working class child was disadvantaged in relation to the middle class peers. It has been shown that environmental and socio-economic factors determine the child's ability to adjust to a largely middle-class school ethos. So basically, it is shown that the environment or the socio-economic factors of the child that also determine the child's ability to adjust to the ethos, to the conditions, to the situations of the middle-class school as well. The stage was set for state intervention as Britain launched its programs for the identification of educational priority areas (EPS) and the USA started Project Head Start. Women's education. It is a relatively lower enrollment of girls which accounts for the overall low enrollment rate. In 1975 to 76, 66% of girls in the age group of 6 to 11 years were enrolled in primary school classes. Most of them were in class first. If we look at the corresponding 1980 to 81 figures, namely at the time when these girls should have been going into class 6th, the enrollment figure in this class had dropped to 29.1%. So from 66% it had dropped to 29.1%, where the enrollment figure in the class had dropped, and earlier it was high. Schooling and literacy. It has been pointed out that in order to be meaningful, a minimum of 4 to 5 years of schooling is essential so as to ensure that recipients do not lapse back into illiteracy. If persons study only less than 4 to 5 years, there are chances that recipients will also lapse back to illiteracy. So sociologists as well as economists and educational planners have been concerned with finding ways to explain as well as resolve this crisis. A number of studies in urban slums have borne out that formal schooling has a marginal role to play in the lives of girls. A recent Delhi study of Balmikis, a subcaste of the North Indian Bhangis or sweepers, found that as girls were expected to combine housework and traditional employment with marriage, schooling was found to be of little consequence. Schooling and education was not much of importance. Only traditional employment, marriage, housework, these areas were given importance for the girls from the backward areas. Question of illiteracy. In a Bombay slum, it was found that illiteracy was 3 times higher since migrant population were prepared to send their daughters for only a few years to primary school, but hoped that their sons would finish school. Coupled with the urbanization process, we have a situation where young men from families with little or no education among the older generation eagerly flock to classes and courses of various kinds, whether one hopes to become a bus conductor, office clerk, or join the civil service. Certificates, diplomas, and degrees are valuable assets. So basically, coupled with the urbanization process, young men from families also went to acquire degrees and diplomas. Education and employment. When a sharecropper decided to send his 6-year-old girl to the village school, he probably does so because others in the village have sent their girls to school. So this also makes impact when observing others. In a society where there is substantial violence against women, there is a feeling that if a girl can read and write, she can at least communicate with her family after marriage. Education and employment. The process of making school more attractive to groups which have so far been indifferent, if not hostile, is not always easy. So basically, to make the school more attractive to groups who have not been gone to school or who have developed this mindset of not going to school and not acquiring education, that making or that explanation is not easy. When such efforts have to be contained with institutions and individuals who are not themselves convinced of the need to integrate children from varying backgrounds, the problems are magnified. When such efforts have to contain and when such efforts have to be applied to make individuals and themselves to basically take education, or to when they are themselves not convinced to integrate children from different backgrounds to come and have education and to take the benefits of education and to also make themselves educated, then problems are magnified, and there are a lot of problems when the individuals are themselves not willing to educate themselves. So the problems have to be sorted out and solved in an organized manner. That's all we have in this session for you. It was about process of education, gaining education, acquiring education, and also making the school, making the formal system that also attractive for the young minds to come in and educate. So these are some of the questions you have to do it yourself. Question number 1, explain what is meant by education. Question number 2, write a note on education and inequality. That's all. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.